Not looking very active today. I guess we'll check the parameters again. Uh-oh. Hey, you know you don't have to do maintenance all the time, right? What do you mean? Well, with just a few changes to your tank, you can create a much healthier ecosystem that does a lot of the work for you. For example, I spend about 5 minutes a week on this tank, and I do water changes once every few months. That sounds pretty good. How do I do that? I'm glad you asked. Here are 7 tips to create an ultra low maintenance shrimp tank that you can spend more time enjoying. Let's get started.
This is Shrimply Explained, it is all in the name.
We recommend using a sponge filter for the lowest maintenance. They're very easy to clean, and they also have a lot of surface area to promote biofilm growth. Biofilm helps feed your shrimp, and it also helps perform biological filtration to reduce the need for water changes. If not using a sponge filter, then cover the filter intake with a pre-filter sponge. This prevents shrimp from being sucked up and reduces the amount of debris that enters your filter. A small pre-filter sponge can be clogged easily, especially if you have a lot of shrimp in your tank. They just don't stop pooping.
You are ruining this entire operation.
Even so, a pre-filter sponge is still easier to clean than the internal pieces of your filter. Filters help oxygenate the tank, but additional oxygen is almost always beneficial. An air stone is also good because higher oxygen levels are better for most aquatic animals. In addition, higher oxygen levels also help break down waste, as shown by Liu and T. In this study, they compared the decomposition rate of leaf litter at 4 different concentrations of dissolved oxygen, finding the high DO tank had 25 to 40% faster decomposition. Faster decomposition reduces debris buildup and maintains consistent water quality for healthier shrimp. Next tip, use a lid. It significantly reduces the evaporation and reduces the need for top-offs. It can also help prevent fish or shrimp from either escaping or jumping out. Another tip to reduce maintenance is to add substrate. While a bare-bottom tank might seem easier to clean, a substrate provides a ton more surface area for biofilm. Again, biofilm is fantastic to perform biological filtration and feed your shrimp. If the substrate is deep enough, then it also creates a unique low oxygen environment for anaerobic bacteria to grow. These bacteria help purify water by sequestering nutrients in the substrate and making them more available for rooted plants. This is explained really well by Alex at Fishery and Father Fish, whose videos are linked in the description below. The recommended substrate depth is usually at least 2 inches, which is good for both plants and bacteria. That brings us to our next tip, which is a variety of plants. Different species of plants utilize nutrients at different rates, so having a variety of them helps reduce the likelihood of any one nutrient building up, which might cause algae or require water changes. One paper by Chris Tanner demonstrates this by measuring the concentration of macro and micronutrients absorbed by different plants. This study compares 8 species and the difference in nutrient concentration in the tissue that is immersed or grown above the water, and submersed or grown below the water. We're mainly focused on submersed growth here because that's what's mostly in our aquarium. Here you can see all of the different nutrients that they checked in these studies, and we can see drastic differences in the use of, say, magnesium, manganese, zinc, and boron. We don't have great information on differences in nutrient uptake of common plant species in the aquarium hobby, so adding at least a few different plants makes it more likely that all of your plants on average absorb a balance of nutrients. This prevents the buildup of any one nutrient in the water, which reduces the need for water changes and reduces the likelihood of algae growth. There are 3 different categories of plants that provide unique benefits. The first is floating or immersed plants. These are great because they have access to a lot of oxygen and light. This lets them grow extremely quickly, so they absorb a lot of nitrates and other nutrients in the water column. This reduces the likelihood of nutrient buildup and reduces the need for water changes. Some examples include duckweed. The second category includes plants like mosses that have intricately branching structures with high surface area. As mentioned, this high surface area helps to grow biofilm and feed shrimp naturally. Another benefit is that they capture floating particles in the water, which improves water clarity to reduce the need for water changes and reduces how often your filter needs cleaning. The third category is rooted plants. As debris breaks down in your substrate, it releases nutrients. These can either enter the water column and be removed via water change, or they can be captured by plants and microorganisms in the substrate. Rooted plants help keep these nutrients in the substrate, turning that into luscious plant growth instead of water pollutants that need to be removed. Rooted plants also break up the substrate so ammonia pockets don't develop. Before putting any plants in your tank, be sure to do your research into their specific care and lighting requirements to make sure they fit with your tank. Our next tip is to add snails. Snails are a fantastic cleaning crew that helps prevent debris buildup. Certain species like assassin, rabbit, and trumpet snails also burrow into your substrate, churning it like worms in a garden to improve substrate health. As with plants, diversity is great here too. If you can get a few different snail species doing slightly different jobs, then that's better than a single species in your tank. Our next tip is to wait as long as possible before adding shrimp. By that, we mean let your ecosystem establish at least 6 to 8 weeks. The importance of this is demonstrated by a paper by Veronica Viau and her team, which showed that microorganism abundance increased during the second month after the tank was set up to culture biofilm. These microorganisms help to recycle nutrients throughout the ecosystem to make it more stable while also feeding your shrimp. In general, maintenance needs decrease as the tank ecosystem matures because all of these organisms start to work together more efficiently to cycle nutrients throughout. The final tip is to simply add less to your tank. Less food, less fertilizer. If you've let your tank ecosystem establish for at least 6 to 8 weeks, then there should be plenty of food for your shrimp in the tank already. The only thing they might not have is a high protein food source in the tank. That's where adding a high protein food source 1 to 2 times a week can help improve the growth rate and size for your shrimp. As for fertilizer, it's true that some plants don't do well without it, but there are many that will do just fine and be able to adapt to your tank ecosystem. So those are all of our tips. As you can see, it's very easy to set up an ultra low maintenance shrimp tank with just a little bit of research and planning. Now, the next step is to cycle it. If you don't know about the cycling process, then check out this video here where we explain it in depth and how to do it as easily and safely as possible. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below. I'd absolutely love to chat with you. And if you enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe. Otherwise, happy shrimping.